Welcome. Welcome to Change It Up Radio here with Paula Shaw. Welcome all our live stream viewers and our audio listeners. I am Paula Shaw and I am so delighted to have you here with me today because I have somebody so very special to introduce you to. And her name is Marilyn King. She is a two-time Olympian and truly one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met. And I'm really looking forward to sharing her with you today. So welcome to Change It Up Radio. Those of you who have been following us know that we are all about change. We're about helping people deal with change in a smoother, more productive way. And we're also about spotlighting change makers who are trying to make the world a better place. And my guest today is definitely one of those people. You know, one of the things that's so difficult about change is we humans, we're comfort-loving creatures. And sameness is so much more comfortable to us, even if we don't like it, even if we don't feel challenged or particularly happy or joyful in the sameness, there's a certain level of comfort that comes with it. And so we tend to opt for that, whether it's really good for us or not. But fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, change is always coming. Change is one of the few constants that we can totally count on. So if you like what's happening today, enjoy because change is coming. If you don't like what's happening today, stand by because change is coming. And how we deal with change is very, very important. And really, as much as many of us don't think this is true, how change affects us has way more to do with us than it has to do with outside circumstances. And Marilyn King, my guest today, is going to be teaching us about that. She's dealt with some very difficult circumstances. And in the words of the old saying, she turned those lemons into lemonade. And she's going to teach us how she did that today. And really, I can't urge you strongly enough to stay here for this show because Marilyn King has not just words of wisdom, she has true life experience to share with us. She has walked the path that she's going to be talking about, and you want to hear about it. One of the things we will be discussing, because her passion today is peace on this planet. In a former show a few weeks back, we talked about, is peace possible? With all the different cultures and religions and races and creeds on this planet, is it possible for humans to come together and create a planet that's a beautiful place for all of us to live, a fair place, an equitable place for all of us to live? Well, we're going to be talking about that today because I can tell you this woman is absolutely convicted that it's just around the corner. And I want to share with you, I'm going to do something that I rarely do in this segment. I'm going to share a reading that I found on Marilyn's website because I think it's a perfect setup for what we're going to be talking about today. But first, I want to remind you all that if you would like to get information about me or my work, and as most of you know, I'm an author, a speaker, and a life transition coach, you can go to paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com and get information about me and my work. If you want to hear former shows from this radio show, or you want information about being a guest or a sponsor on this show, you can get that information at changeitupradio.com. That's changeitupradio.com. And remember, those of you who are live stream viewers today, that you're kind of backstage with us. So we're going to be having some extra fun that will probably be cut out of the final show. So thank you all for being with us. I want to share with you something very special today that I found on Marilyn King's website. And I really would love it if you're not driving a car or running down the street while you're listening to this. Close your eyes and just listen to these words and see how they feel to you. Imagine a world where governments respect the human rights of their citizens and settle disputes by the rule of law for the common good. Imagine a world where all people have food, shelter, and access to medical care, and children are born into and raised by healthy families and communities. Imagine a world where literacy and education for all are accomplished facts. Imagine a world where economic practices create well-being for all stakeholders, including communities and the environment. Imagine a world where beauty, the arts, and media inspire the best in people. Imagine a world where the benefits of science and technology enhance all circles of life. Imagine a world where tolerance and appreciation of diverse religious beliefs is the rule. Spiritual practice is encouraged and reverence for life fostered. Imagine a world where the earth in all her unnatural beauty is treasured and its resources utilized sustainably for this and future generations. This is a world at peace. May peace prevail on earth. You are a pathway to peace. When I read that, I just thought it was really, truly one of the most beautiful pieces I'd seen in so long. And my mind started creating pictures. I mean, imagine some of these areas were so fabulous, you know, a place where children, of course, now I took my glasses off, I can't see, a place where all people have food, shelter, and access to medical care, and children are born into and raised by healthy families and communities. Imagine just that change would absolutely transform life on this planet. And when I had my first talk with Marilyn and I was discussing these ideas with her, I was kind of coming from the perspective of, oh, how beautiful, how idyllic. But Marilyn King does not think this is idyllic. Marilyn King is very, very clear that this is within our reach. And this is a woman who has not had it easy in her life on this planet. When she shares her story of what she went through, remember, she was a 2-time pentathlete. That's 5 events she had to master to compete. And she competed twice. And then on the 3rd time, something very amazing happened. Something that would have stopped a lot of people, but not Marilyn. Not only did she figure out a way to handle it, but out of that grew all this beautiful stuff. And you know, yesterday I was chatting with her. If I had my way, I'd have a chat with her every day because she's an incredibly uplifting person. But I was having a chat with her and she was saying that one of the worst problems today is that so many people are focused on the negatives, whether they're political or economic or whatever they are. They're so focused on the negatives that they're losing their ability to see what's possible and to see what actually exists out there in the positives in the world. And that is so exciting to me. Some of you may remember that early in COVID, I decided that there was just too much negativity and too much fear. And so I started live streaming a show every day that I called Highlights from the Silver Linings Playbook. And of course, I like to tell everybody that I came up with my idea before John Krasinski created Some Good News. His was a little bigger scale than mine, but the bottom line is it was a good idea. It was an important idea because what I know about energy and what I know about focus is that whatever we focus on, we feed energy to. And whatever we feed energy to grows. So I really want you to think about, what do you want to grow? Do you want to grow these things you've been talking about day after day that you're afraid of? Or do you want to grow something beautiful? Do you want to grow what you really want? Do you want to grow what will help this planet soar and become this paradise of peace? Well, I think most of us would opt for the second. But we have to remember that we create with our thinking. We create with our words. We create with our deeds. And so what you are thinking and doing and focusing on every day and what you're speaking about, that's what's going to create. So before you hear from somebody who knows a lot about creation, I want to urge everybody to really tune into your thoughts and your words today. Look at what you're putting out energetically into the atmosphere, into the world. And is it in alignment with what you want to create? Is it in alignment with the world that you really want to see? If not, then let's change those words and change those thoughts. ASAP. All right, we're going to take just a little break here. And in a moment, we will be back with somebody amazing, Ms. Marilyn King. We'll be right back. Now, those of you who are watching us on Facebook, this part will be cut out and there'll be a fully produced show that will air on the radio and become a podcast. But you get to see the in-between parts. And so now I'm going to pretend that we just came back from a commercial break. I have got this one hair driving me crazy here. It just keeps going right in front of my eye. All right, so bear with me for a moment. I'd pull it out, except I'm afraid I'll take too many. All right, guys, we're coming back now with Marilyn King. So let me just get my notes organized here. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio, here with Paula Shaw. I am delighted to have you with me in this segment because, as promised, I am going to be introducing you to a very, very special lady, two-time Olympian Marilyn King. But before I bring her out, let me tell you just a little bit about her. As I said, she's a two-time Olympian in the grueling event, the pentathlon. That means you have to do the 100-meter hurdles, shot put, high jump, long jump, and 800 meters. That, just speaking the words, makes me tired. I don't know how she did it. So that means you have to train in all 5 events. This is really difficult. She was in 2 Olympics and unfortunately had a very serious accident before her 3rd. And I can't wait for her to share that story with you. And that was for the Moscow Games that many of you know ended up being boycotted. After that, though, there was no stopping her. Then she founded Beyond Sports, an organization that applies imagery to a wide range of individual and social concerns, such as world peace. I can't wait to talk about that. Today, she's a business consultant, an education pioneer, and a peace activist. So I won't keep you waiting any longer. Marilyn, please join us. There she is. Hi.
Oh, Paula, I'm so delighted to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
I am so delighted to have you here as well. Marilyn, I've been teasing them with your story for all this time. You had a very difficult thing happen to you. You know, one of the things that I notice when I'm speaking with people or working with them in my practice is that so often something tragic happens in a life and people stop. They give up, or they say, I guess it wasn't meant to be, or I can't do it now. That isn't your story. So would you please tell us what happened to you and what did you do after that?
Well, I'm happy to do that, but I have to say I listened to the way you opened your program about change, which I'm so delighted about. And I was really very, very touched that you read from the Pathways to Peace vision card. I thought I would actually like to start and give people a little taste of what you and I both do in terms of assisting people in change. And then I'm happy to tell you the story, but you shared all those lovely aspects of components of world peace. Imagine a world in which governments do this and education does that. And what I want to suggest is that if we notice how significant the words that we use, which is what you talked about, can really change how we feel. So if we just take one of those as an example where we said, imagine a world, I think one of my favorites was the one that you chose also, a world in which all people have food, shelter, and access to medical care, and children are born into and raised by healthy families and communities. Imagining that world, you know, it does make us feel good. It's like, wow, wouldn't that be wonderful? But it's kind of like a wish, right? And so it's the same thing as saying, well, I wish I could live in a world that looks like that. But what happens if you change one word? And I'm going to change one word and read it again. Okay. Notice how you feel when you say, I want to live in a world where all people have food, shelter, and access to medical care, and children are born into and raised by healthy families and communities. The I want to has a different feeling than I wish.
Very much. There's a lot of strength to that.
Listen to what happens if we change it. I take people through a number of, but I'll take you right to my bottom line. Notice what happens when you say, I intend to live in a world where all people have food, shelter, and access to medical care, and children are born into and raised by healthy families and communities.
Yes, there's a huge.
But I wish, I want, you know, I intend.
Yeah.
That brings up the volition, and it actually takes your brain into what we call cognitive dissonance. And you start to go, well, what would I have to do? And then your brain starts to come up with new solutions. So I wanted to begin because this is all about change, and that's what we're looking to do, assist people in understanding how their minds work to facilitate the change that we want.
Beautiful. I love that, Marilyn, and it's so true. And I have been doing that. We might want to mention to the listeners that if you go to Marilyn's website, which it's marilynking.com, isn't it, Marilyn?
No, it's actually Way Beyond Sports.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yes. Sorry. waybeyondsports.com. This card is there, and there is a suggested activity, which I have been doing, that does ask you to do exactly what Marilyn just walked us through, which is read the words. And on day one, you say, imagine a world. On day two, I wish I could live in a world. And then you read each point. On day three, I want to live in a world, and you read each point. And then on day four, I intend to live in a world. I've been doing it, and it's so interesting how you see it differently. It feels so much more doable when you get to that place, I intend.
And you come up with new thoughts and new ideas that lead to new behaviors. And that's what we need, is behavior change. So that was, thank you so much for beginning the program with that.
Oh, my joy, my pleasure. Okay, so tell us about the thing you went through, Marilyn, that was so difficult.
Yeah, and the quick backstory is when people meet someone who's an Olympian, they often think, oh, this is someone like other than, you know, this is an other than ordinary person. But In fact, I only got involved in sports because my dad was in the military. We moved all the time. I didn't do well making friends, but if you got in sports after school, it was easier to make friends. Moving a bunch of times, doing sports, I was usually second or third. I was never the best. But when we went to New York, I was at a track meet and they were hosting the Eastern States Pentathlon Championships. I'd never heard of this event before. And I figured all these girls and women would come in, and only 2 girls showed up. But you need 3 for a legal competition, and they asked for a volunteer, which I did. And not even knowing what all the events were, I just figured all I have to do is finish them, even if they put the high jump really low, you know. And at the end of the day, I was the 3rd best on the whole East Coast, and this was a big deal. So I started to train in those events. The next year, the same 2 girls showed up, and I beat them. And my little Staten Island sent me to the National Pentathlon Championships, where I saw 2 girls that they invited to the Olympic training camp who I had beaten. And I thought, they think, well, she looks like a future Olympian, but the other one, I knew I was a better athlete. So I had this one new thought that changed my life. If I beat her and I'm actually better than she is, and they think she can go to the Olympics, that means I could go to the Olympics.
Wow.
So I woke up every day after that with this crazy thought, and just like the cognitive dissonance, I knew I wasn't that great, but I couldn't make this idea go away. So I had new thoughts that led to new behaviors and took me to my first 2 Olympic teams. So that's the backstory. So people don't think I'm some, extraordinary athlete, but it was in training for my 3rd Olympic team that sets the stage for all of the work that I do and for our conversation today, which is that I had taken a year's leave of absence for my very last Olympic team for the last year, because I'd never had a chance to just do 24/7 train. My car was hit from behind by a truck in November of 1979. And while it wasn't a big, ugly accident, it produced a bulging disc in my low back that was misdiagnosed. And because they didn't really know what it was, I thought it was like a crick in my neck, only it was in my back. And I'll be better next week. And I'm getting better every day. It just didn't turn out to be true. So November, December, January, I couldn't train. I couldn't hop from foot to foot. I'm going to all these doctors. Since I couldn't do anything, but I had a leave of absence, I got films of the world record holders in all 5 of my events. And I sat and I watched them for 3 or 4 hours a day, frame by frame, slow motion. When I was really bored, I watched them backwards. You see them jumping backwards out of the pit or coming backwards over the high jump bar. So that was my only recreation at the time. And by March, April, I could walk and I would go to the track. I still couldn't jog or do the 6 to 8 hours a day of training, but I would have someone set up all 5 of my events, and I would spend 3 or 4 hours at the track, taking a deep breath, exhaling, imagining my drills, or imagining coming out of starting blocks, or imagining my competition. So we fast forward now, all of the 7 months right before the Olympic trials, I still had not been able to do any of that physical training, but I had them give me a facet block, which is like a Novocaine injection. And I showed up at the Olympic trials and I placed 2nd at the Olympic trials in the pentathlon.
That is amazing. That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
So you were on your way to the Olympics as 2nd in the trials.
So I was 2nd at the Olympic trials, but Jimmy Carter had called the boycott already. Right. And it was clear by that the team was not going.
I see.
So I was 2nd.
So disappointing. But what you figured out to do, nobody was doing back then. Now, lots of people are working with visualization, but you were way ahead of your game, and you figured out how to use that tool, training your mind without really training your body. Correct?
Exactly.
Amazing. And you know what? This is a perfect place for us to take a quick break here. And when we come back, then I really want you to tell everybody, so what came out of that for you? Because you had this extraordinary experience that, nobody had in that situation up until then.
Right. So what do you do next?
What do you do next? Exactly. All right, we're going to take a break next, and then next will be Marilyn's story. We will be right back. Okay, Marilyn, we're not really going to a break, so if you're ready, I'll just bring us back.
Terrific.
Okay. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio, here with Paula Shaw. And my guest today, two-time Olympian Marilyn King. She was a pentathlete who ended up having a car accident before her third Olympics, but found a way, without training her physical body, found a way to train her mind so that in the end, she came in second at the Olympic trials without having really worked her body or trained her body during that whole time. So Marilyn, let's get back into this story. Where we left in the last segment was we were talking about the fact that you came in second. Unfortunately, the Olympics were boycotted that year and you didn't get to go to the games. What did you do?
Yes. So I knew that I hadn't trained for 7 months and did something that's actually impossible, beat younger, faster, more talented athletes who'd been training. So I actually went back to UC Berkeley, where I had been taking a leave of absence from my head coaching position, and I quit. And I said, something extraordinary happened and I need to figure out what it is. So I started to explore the field of exceptional human performance. Now, remember, we're talking 1980, and words like imagery, visualization, and mental rehearsal were like Nouveau California hot tub stuff. I spent about 3 years exploring this and came to understand that the images that we create impact every cell of our body, right? Hypochondriacs don't think they're sick, they manifest diseases.
Yes.
It affects our performance. That's what had happened to me. It affects our future. So for all those girls who weren't imagining being in the Olympics, they didn't do what I did and they didn't become Olympians. I was envisioning something different. I behaved differently and created that future. And it's also true that it affects our collective future. So that if we don't think that we can live in a world at peace, or if you don't think that you can graduate from whatever it is, you don't engage the new thoughts and behaviors. So I became quite transfixed with this. I got a grant to learn how to teach this because I thought people will go crazy, affect your health, your performance, your future, our collective future. People will go nuts.
Right.
It was exciting, but it didn't really move people into action. And I was quite perplexed and went back to the drawing board. And what I discovered was it was very powerful, but not sufficient. And exceptional human performance always has 3 components. And whenever you see people who excel in a moment or over the long haul, individually or collectively, 3 things are always present. And the first one I call passion powered.
Would you like me to share your slide now, Marilyn?
Oh, that would be great.
Okay, let me do that.
Yeah, so I'll talk about it as you put it up. So the first part is understanding that exceptional human performance is not about a should or a supposed to or wouldn't it be nice. It's passion powered. That allows us access to the energy and the creativity and everything we need. It's not about willpower and discipline to get out of bed and train. It's about, oh my gosh, I could be in the Olympics. Of course, I'll get out of bed and run around the lake. And then it's vision guided, having a crystal clear image of the goal and understanding that the how-to images will begin to emerge. And then having the third component, which is action. You have to have a daily practice. You have to have a game plan. You have to have feedback about your game plan. And it's when you align passion, vision, and action that you have access to exceptional human performance.
And Marilyn, when you and I talked about this the first time, I thought it was very interesting that you brought out that you can't, if you don't have all 3, the formula doesn't really work, right?
Exactly, exactly. So I'm going to encourage people, if you have something to write with, and it's not you're not driving your car or something, draw those little 3 icons. So draw a heart next to a little vision schematic of an eye and a little stick figure of a running person. And ask yourself, what happens if someone has a lot of passion about something and when they talk about it, it's really clear, but they don't really have a game plan or good daily practices or they don't do anything? Well, it's really exciting, but it's not going to take them where they want to go.
Right.
They don't have the action plan. And if you move your finger and instead of covering up the action, cover up the middle one, and ask yourself, when people have a lot of passion and they're very busy, but how they think about it is not Olympian thinking and effective. It's like they're workaholics because they really care and they're really busy, but it's kind of sad because of how they think about it. And if you cover up the first one and leave the two on the right, where there's not much juice, right? It's a should or supposed to, or some goal setting you did, and you can see it and you go, that's a recipe for moderate success, but it's not exceptional human performance. So if you want to put up the next slide, it shows you images of what I just walked people through. And recognizing that there are times in which we have set our mind to something in which I really care about this, and you start to think differently and you move into action. So people really have engaged these three, but there are times in which, we're kind of a dreamer because we don't really put it into action.
Exactly.
Or we haven't got it all figured out yet and we're busy, but we're not effective. And then there's the things that we just do because we're kind of supposed to. So that's where the 2 out of 3, and recognizing that if you really want to up your game, you want to check out all 3 areas.
You know what I love about this, Marilyn, is, and I could see guilt in my own life. There have been things I've been passionate about, and I've been busy making calls and doing this and that, but I hadn't really taken the time to think through what is the plan, what is the beautiful vision that I would like this to amount to, or that I would like this to result in. And like one of the reasons I love so much Imagine a World that I began reading is because that's the vision. It's so crystal clear. And then if you've got the passion for it, you find the actions. I can actually see those 3 things creating this world peace that we're talking about.
Yes. And the part that concerns me about that framework is I believe that people everywhere really want to live in peace and want to do something, but how they think about it is really ineffective. Or they're out there and they're protesting and doing these things, but they really don't, all they can think about is how awful things are and how overwhelming it is. And they're not envisioning the goal and being clear about what they can do that will actually be effective in making it happen. And there is a place for protests, and there is a place for getting out the vote. Those things are very important. But we want to use Olympian thinking. We want to be crystal clear about what the goal is, what is our strategy, and how to effectively use our time and get feedback on our game plan and so forth. So we'll talk more about that if we have time.
Oh, yes. I think that's just a beautiful, beautiful goal. And I love the formula, as I said, because all 3 components create results. And I loved how you put on here extraordinary things, because so many people want extraordinary. If you ask people, if you could have anything, what would you want? They don't say, a sort of okay place to live and maybe, a car that runs. And no, we all want extraordinary, don't we?
Yeah.
But I think that's what's so critical about what you're teaching, Marilyn. We don't all understand the pieces necessary to create that extraordinary reality. So
being crystal clear. Yep, exactly.
Exactly. So do we want to go to the last slide now, or do we want to just chat a little bit?
Yeah, we can let go of the screen share, unless people still like to look at that, but yeah.
So tell us what you're doing today, Marilyn, to help teach people this model, to help people create extraordinary results in their own lives.
Yeah, I really have 3 areas of expertise where I apply the model. Business, education, and peace is what's most important to me. And in the business world, I have the great privilege of having the opportunity to work with corporate executives, particularly leadership teams. And right now, because of the nature and the speed and the global systemic nature of the changes that are going on, and the anxieties that it produces, there are some really very unique responsibilities of those in leadership right now. And a lot it has to do with mindset. The people are coming to work every day or showing up on Zooms or whatever it is, but mostly where their mind is in fear and anxiety. It is the job of a leader, in my opinion, to be really clear with people about, look, this is where we came from as an industry, as a company. This is where we are now. And where are we intending to go? And to be really clear about what are the things that we're going to, what are the things we have to let go of, and what are the new ways we have to begin to embrace. So by getting people to ground in the fact that, for example, I am part of a systemic change in the energy industry. We're going from coal to sustainable, and it doesn't mean people will just lose their jobs. We will transition people in the industry, and our company is part of that. And here's what the future looks like, and we are part of that bridge to go from what was to what will be in the future. That can be very exciting for people, and it will help them weather change. And when you help them see what we're going to carry forward, what we'll leave behind, and what we will bring on board, it helps. So I work quite a bit with leadership teams who are taking a look at what's our role in these global systemic change times.
And I can see how critical, especially now, because everything is in flux, right? Change is upon us, whether we like it or not. So this model and these things you're talking about will help give people the clarity. Without the clarity, they can't have the vision, it seems to me, and if you don't have the vision, you don't know what actions to take. And, we've got to have all three of those things. And I think sometimes once people have that clarity and that vision, their passion can grow, even if it wasn't already there. So I really love what you're doing, Marilyn. And we have to take a little break right now. But when we come back, and my goodness, time is flying with you. When we come back, let's talk also about how you are extending this into your work as a peace activist. So stay with us, everybody. I'm sure you're having as much fun as I am. We'll be right back. All right, Marilyn, if you're ready, I'm ready.
All right.
I can't wait to hear what you're saying next. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio, here with Paula Shaw, and my guest today, Marilyn King, two-time Olympian pentathlete, who had an accident at one point in time that prevented her from training her physical body, but through visualization, mental imagery, determination, I think, passion, action, and vision, she created an amazing life for herself, and today is teaching other people how to do that as well. And she's using all of that knowledge that she's gained over the years to help create peace on this planet. And that's what I'm looking forward to talking to her about right now. So Marilyn, I love what you've shared with us in our prior segments, and any of you who missed the show earlier, you've got to go back and listen to the whole thing because it's been incredible. She has so much to share with us. So you've spent many years now, after you learned through your own experience with mental imagery and visualization, how to create the life you wanted. You've spent a lot of time now teaching other people how to do the same. So what got you on this track toward peace, world peace, in fact, and what's happening there?
So two things really. One was I came home from a corporate event and felt like this was good work, but felt like something wasn't quite, completely passion powered. Mm-hmm. And I stopped and I took a deep breath and I thought, okay. And I wound up asking myself a question that I ask some of my audiences is, what could you be passionate about, but what are you already passionate about? And I have activities that I take people through. But I took a deep breath and, it just popped up. My grandmother, duh, I love my grandmother, very human potential, which was what my career was all about. And peace showed up. And I was like, I sat up and go like, where did that come from? And if you remember back to the three icons, only two of them showed up. And I saw, you know what? We have two of the three things that we need for peace. People really do want to live in a world at peace. And they're willing to do something, but how they think about it is not like Olympian thinking. They're not even really clear what they mean by it. It's not like kumbaya stuff. What really look like? If you don't know what the goal looks like, you can't have a good strategy.
Yes.
True. And all of their thinking is based on old, outdated information. You know, there are people who set their vision to stabilize the population, which we are doing. Ending world hunger, which is happening. Universal education. I mean, it's so the negative beliefs and the old outdated information doesn't allow people to think effectively. So instantly I saw Olympians worldwide. We have a network of people who can speak to how important it is to be able to envision your goal clearly. So it became really clear to me that we could create an Olympian inspired peace team.
Oh, I love that. So is that actually who is on your team? They're all Olympians?
So that's what we're doing. We're creating, first, there were many things that needed to happen. There was no international network of Olympians, which there is now, thanks to colleagues of mine who I worked with. There are really 5 components to this, but the key one actually ties back to my work in education. And I have an initiative called the Olympian Initiative, training kids to think like Olympians, using Olympians worldwide to deliver the message that it's actually, we're all hardwired, you know, to align passion, vision, and action, that you can do this. So aligning Olympians worldwide to deliver that message with music videos in their countries.
Really?
And then delivering the methodology. I did this with inner city Oakland kids and was inspired by how quick they learned it, quicker than a lot of corporate executives do, by the way.
No doubt.
I taught it to inner city Oakland kids who really inspired me. It just became really clear, because of what they did, that we took them from the individual level, where they discovered whatever it was they wanted to be through the work that we did, learning how to think effectively through 2 activities that we call the gold standard and success mapping, and then setting them up with contracts. Once they kind of internalized that, they decided they wanted to do something in their neighborhood that they were upset about. So their passion to change something in their neighborhood, we took them through the process collectively.
Oh, beautiful.
And it became really clear that we could elevate them one more level. And if they really care about trafficking or the environment, that they could get involved with international organizations of young people. So the goal is that we will be recognizing young people at the bronze, silver, and gold level on the International Day of Peace, because they did something at the individual level, then they moved to the local level and to the global level.
Oh, how beautiful. And is there an actual day, a date that's picked for this to happen?
The good news is someone I became associated with in 1983 started with Kumbaya at the UN and created the International Day of Peace, which is now celebrated in 153 countries.
Oh, beautiful.
September 21st. So by 2024, worldwide, Olympians will be recognizing kids on Peace Day all over the world at the bronze, silver, and gold level. So I'll say it this way, the Olympian Initiative, training kids to think like Olympians, is actually a stealth peace project.
I love that. And you know what I think is so beautiful about it, Marilyn? Every time there's an Olympics, you know, every 4 years or every 2, I guess, if, you know, winter and then summer. But we all become very aware that we've gathered together these Olympians from all over the world, that it's a time of peace and that we're coming together in joy and friendly competition. And everybody's all rah-rah about it. And then 4 years goes by and most people aren't thinking about it again until then. But I love what you've created here, because you realize these people are not just ambassadors for one set of games.
Right.
They're ambassadors for peace for their lifetime. I can't imagine that once you've been in the Olympic Village and competed with people all over the world and gotten to be friends with them, I would imagine you're changed forever, right?
As a matter of fact, I frame it as creating a global Olympic village, because at my first Olympic Games, I encountered 2 guys in the lunchroom from countries that were at war with each other, and they were trying to find a common language to communicate something. And then finally, it turned out this guy was trying to ask him, where did you find the peanut butter? Asked myself the question, how could these highly competitive, successful men from warring countries be getting along so well? And when I stepped back, I thought, when you walk around the Olympic Village, the first thing that, no matter who you see, you don't know what country or what, if they're a gold medalist, that you have respect for everyone. And then the second thing you have is curiosity. What country, what sport? Are you an also ran like me? And I thought, what if people woke up every day like it was a global Olympic village, and everyone they saw, they treated with respect and curiosity? That's what my...
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. So, Marilyn, what can people do if they're watching this show and they're thinking, yeah, I believe peace is possible. I don't know what to do. What would you suggest?
So two things. One, peace is possible. It's really important that we understand and fine tune that question. When you ask it that way, it puts people into, oh, it would be really nice, but maybe, and their brain is all like this. When you ask, is peace possible, it doesn't allow you to see the peace that exists. I actually have 5 levels that I talk about. There's like non-peace, where there's war. There's barely peace, of people in refugee camps. There's just kind of basic peace. And we live in relative peace. You know, I live in and then beyond that, for me, it's what I call sweet peace.
Nice.
But we're looking to move everybody up the ladder just one level. So the issue really is be really clear about the goal. And I'll give you my vision of the goal. It's from Dr. King. He said, I have the audacity to believe that people everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, freedom and dignity for their spirit. So just like the card that's on my website that you read from.
Yes.
Not I wish, not I want. Be really clear. What do you mean by peace? And say, wake up every morning, and I call it begin your day the Olympian way, and envision your GOLD, not a goal, your GOLD. I intend to live in a world that Dr. King described. And quite frankly, I have been to the promised land. I have been in the Olympic village, where people treat each other with respect and curiosity.
Oh, Marilyn, that is so beautiful. Oh, you've just got me now to the point where I'm not sure what to say, but I'm so touched and so moved by what you've described, and how we can create it and how we can get there. And I am so grateful to you for sharing with us today all of this beautiful wisdom and knowledge that you have, and your dream and your vision. And I see it too. And when you say it that way, a global Olympic village, that gives a nice structure to it. I can see that. I can feel that. And where can people go if they want to learn more about this work or they want to get involved, Marilyn?
Well, I'm going to invite people to join the peace team. You need 2 things. You need to be clear about what the goal is, because you can't be on the team if you don't know the goal.
Yeah.
And be clear about your role. And go to my website, waybeyondsports.com.
All right, waybeyondsports.com. And we have gone way beyond wonderful on this show today, in my opinion. Marilyn, thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners and our viewers for being here with us today to hear these very important and very special words. And remember that you can hear us on AM 1170 and 96.1 FM in San Diego, Sunday evening at 9. We're on every major podcast platform. We've got a Change It Up Radio YouTube channel. And you can always go to changeitupradio.com and hear former shows. And you will get Marilyn's information as well in the show notes. And you know what I think I'm going to try to have included in the show notes this week? No, I'm going to do this. We will have these beautiful words, Imagine a World, from Imagine a World. They're also on Marilyn's website. So thank you all for being with us. Marilyn, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I think Pathways to Peace for that card.
Pathways to Peace, yes. Yeah. All right, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks for being with us. And Marilyn, we are, we've stopped recording, but we're still on the live stream. If you'd like to say any last words to our live stream viewers on Facebook.
You know, what I want, if they're going to put, you know, anything out there, it's like, we got this. There are more good people out there who want to live in a world that works, and they're asking, what, not, you know, well, what could I do? Not like that. It's like, what can I do? I need to do something. So when you're clear about the goal and know what it looks like, and clear about your role, we can do this. And I'm very privileged. I know people who've been thinking globally and systemically for their whole lives and are much more encouraged now. And what I think we need to do is shine the light on the rest of the things that are going on. We have 14-year-olds from Africa who are creating inventions to take the microplastics out of the ocean, right? And they didn't go to Harvard or Yale or whatever. There are people all over the world who are full tilt boogie to create the world we all want to live in. So wake up, get up, let's go.
Oh, I love that. And my only encouragement to our listeners is please share this show with everybody you know, because we all need to hear what Marilyn's had to say.
We got this.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you all for being here. Whew, it's been a real joy and a pleasure and an amazing day for me.
I look forward to in the streets on Peace Day.
Oh, yes. And what's the date of that again?
September 21st, the International Day of Peace.
All right. The International Day of Peace, September 21st. Thank you, Marilyn.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.